Life will keep breaking you until you stop trying to be rigid, until you let go and you allow yourself to become fluid and subtle with how you are and who you are. Have you ever looked at a young tree or plant? Notice that they're always very flexible. When things come into life, they are very flexible. They're subtle, they're soft. And when trees begin to die, they're hard, they're rigid. There's a teaching, and in I believe the Zen Buddhist philosophy that says a strong enough wind can break down a hard, tall tree, but it can't break a young, subtle sprout. It can only bend it, and the sprout will find its way back up and grow. The reason I'm talking about this is because many of us in life are very stubborn with how we are and who we are. We often get stuck in a world of beliefs, of opinions, of religions, of philosophies, everything. We think the world is supposed to be a certain way, and we find comfort in this view. And when we start to find comfort in it, we feel a sense of security. And that sense of security doesn't allow us to grow. It gives us a false sense that this is what it is. I brought a pencil here today to demonstrate to you, I suppose, on what will happen to you if you keep being soft, if you keep being rigid and stubborn. So let's say this is you, or at least who you think you are. Let's say you're going through life and you think, you know, life is supposed to be this way or that way, and things are this way or that way, and this is how I am, and this is who I am, and this is what I stand for, and this is what I believe. And let's say you're very stubborn with it. Now, some might view this as strength, because you see, this pencil is pretty hard. It's pretty hard to break. It's fairly rigid. I suppose, from a perspective, you could say that it's hard and secure until it breaks. What does that tell us? If this pencil wasn't so hard and so stubborn about how it is, then it wouldn't necessarily break, it would bend. Most situations in life do not have to break you. There will be hard times in your life when you're going through a tragedy of some sort, maybe just some plan didn't work out, or someone left your life, or something else happened of the sort where you felt like your world is flipped upside down. But this doesn't have to break us, although it is good for us to be broken. What do I mean by that? The first step to being subtle is to be broken. Life will teach you that to be stubborn and to be rigid is not the way of life. It is the way of death. All things, when they die, become hard, rigid, and stubborn. When we're alive, we can move our limbs around, we can feel our body, we can walk, we can do this and that, the second, third, and the fourth. And when we die, our bodies become hard and motionless. They're no longer flexible. In fact, when we die, someone died with a closed palm, then their fingers would remain in that way, and it's very hard to pry them open. So it is very clear that death is stubbornness, rigidness, this sort of concreteness, trying to be a certain way, trying to be definitive. That is the way of death. Now, when our bodies decompose and they slowly go back to earth and they turn to ground and, animals eat them or whatever. If you've ever seen a animal carcass, you know that after a few weeks, then there will be nothing left but bones. And after a few more weeks, there will be nothing but dirt. And so when we die, we go from being stubborn to being soft and subtle again. We go to being back to fluid because we turn into everything. We turn into the ground, and then, we become part of the beautiful thing we call life once again. Although not so much what we think we are, but rather what our actual nature is. And what's so interesting about this is that many times in my life, I found that trying to be a certain way in order to sort of protect yourself from the downs of life will break you. It will cause much more harm than good. And people view people who are fluid with themselves, people who are soft and subtle, as weak because they have this idea in their mind of what strength is, and they think strength is something definitive, something concrete, something which lasts. But as you can see, this pencil didn't last very long under not so much pressure. And these trees, you probably can't see them, but there's about many trees ahead of me, a few palms and some avocado trees. These trees will not last long if a storm comes along. They'll be bent over and broken. But these plants will be bent and then they will come back up. So in the same way, we must learn to be in life. When we're going through a hard situation, when we're going through a down of life, when we feel we're down in the dumps or something like that, we should seek to be humble. We should seek to bow our head and sit in resilience and await what this moment has to teach us. Think next time you go through a hard situation, instead of thinking, oh my God, everything I built is falling apart, everything I had is breaking, think, wow, everything I thought to be true, everything I convinced myself was the way it was supposed to be is changing now. There must be something worth to learn here. So when we learn to be fluid with how we approach life, we allow ourselves to become students of our life, and we are no longer a victim to it. Because instead of being in a position where something is taken away from us, we can be in a humble position where, first of all, we understand that no matter how much you really try for something, nothing really belongs to you in this world. Everything is lended to you, is borrowed for a certain period of time. And second of all, we can look at what we're going through and we can embrace it and seek to gain as much as we can from it. I recently came to a conclusion a few months ago. Uh, there was this question that was really boggling my mind, and I couldn't figure it out. I said to myself, what is wisdom? What does that mean? Certainly, knowledge is not wisdom, because the moment knowledge is something is understood, it becomes knowledge, not wisdom. So, what is wisdom? Here's the funny thing about wisdom, it's unknown. Wisdom is simply remaining a student. Wisdom is keeping an open heart and mind to what is to come and what is already here. Being wise is not knowing a certain amount of things. It's not having a certain amount of knowledge. It's actually being in a state of living. It's a state of mind, a state of, how do I say this? It is a state of being. I'll give you an example as to what difference between a wise person and a knowledgeable person is. A knowledgeable person, when they come across something they don't know or they don't understand, then they'll simply say, I don't understand it. A wise person, when they come across something they don't know, they don't understand, they will say, there's something to learn here. So really, wisdom is just about remaining, once again, fluid with yourself. You sit down and you humble yourself and you allow for yourself to be taught by the things that you experience in life and grow from them. It is in this change of being a rigid, stubborn individual to being a fluid, free and subtle, soft individual that we can find true strength and freedom. Because when we allow ourselves to be soft, subtle, and fluid with how we are, we allow ourselves to flow along with life and find a way to continuously change, and not forcefully, by the way. This is one thing I want to make very clear. Some people think that change means being constantly on some sort of grind and constantly looking for things to improve, and I got to do this and that and be here and there and blah blah blah. No, change is about when the opportunity comes to grow, you don't avoid it. That's the best way to approach change. If you see there's something about you that maybe you dislike, or there's a certain way you wish to be, then you can change towards that. You can grow to be that person. You can change rather from it. And not constantly look for things to improve within yourself, because you'll always be flawed. That's sort of the your flaws are sort of what teach you. If you didn't have flaws, then there would really be nothing to learn, and you would already know everything, and life would be bland and boring, and it would not be an adventure. But to further continue my thought, when you allow yourself to no longer be broken by the situations of life, but rather taught by it, you gain a tremendous amount of freedom and space. Space is extremely important because in order for something to grow, it requires space. When you have this space about you, when you allow yourself to not think, this is how it is, you know, right now, I believe a certain amount of things. A year ago, I believed some other things which I already don't agree on. because I've grown from them, and I've seen other arguments that have been better, that have proved those beliefs wrong, and I've grown from that, and I moved past it. But if I were to stay in that realm and say, well, no, this is how it is, it doesn't matter if this, new thing is telling me it's better, because this is what I've chosen. I'm going to stick with this because it gives me comfort, and I believe this is how it is. That's the way of death. When you start thinking like that and being like that, not allowing yourself space and not allowing yourself fluidity and trying to be like a rock, that's when you will be broken again and again. And then, of course, life will feel like battle. The reason so many people feel like life is war, like life is warfare, like life is a continuous fight, is because they're so stubborn. They're not allowing themselves to flow along with what's going on. They're not humble enough. They don't sit down and think, what is this trying to teach me? How should I change from here on out to live a more peaceful life so that I can flow along with the tides better and dance to the melodies better? Or rather, not better, but more, more harmoniously. Most people don't do that. Most people go, this just happened to me in my life. Life sucks. Life is unfair. Life is this, that, and the other. And so they create, once their beliefs, their security is broken, they create a whole new circle of beliefs and security around that already broken security. And they say, well, my security is only broken because life's unfair. Life does this and that, and uh, life will put you down, and it'll stomp you to the ground and put its foot on your head unless you fight it. So people are in this very unharmonious way of life, and they're constantly on edge. They're constantly fighting to keep their security. And what they don't realize is that by trying to stay a certain way, by trying to keep this security, they are in fact going completely against the true nature of security. Because you see, the universe has no security. Everything is changing, everything is falling apart, things are constantly dying and being coming to life. Things are constantly dying and being born again, coming back to life. So you see, the nature of everything is change, and change requires flexibility, fluidity. No change will take place if you remain stubborn and hard as a rock and try to shelter yourself from their very nature of your existence. You have to allow yourself to be vulnerable so that you can grow. Because again, vulnerability is fluidity. They're the same thing. When you're vulnerable, you allow yourself to be put into the risk of getting hurt, but at the same time, you allow yourself to grow. To always be fluid with who and what you are and how you are. So that's where true maturity lies. A person truly matures when they stop being stubborn and rigid. And the only way to do that is to be aware. To be aware that who you are now can change. To be aware that there's no such thing as security, because no matter how well you try to defend yourself, life is not trying to attack you. You're attacking yourself when you defend yourself from life. You have to submit yourself to life. You have to surrender and let go. And only once you stop using all that energy you would have used to protect yourself, to protect what you believe in, to protect your ideals, your philosophies, whatever it is, your security, will you be able to use all this newfound energy that was just spent on self-defense before to actually create something new, to grow, to change, to find a new way to live your life, to evolve. See, life is constant evolution. That's what it is. It's a constant river flowing. And you should be floating along, not trying to stand in the middle and go against the very tides that created you. When you do that, take away your freedom and you become delusional. You get stuck in your head, in your beliefs, and all of this, in your opinions. And you see this a lot, especially in politics. People are very rigid with what they believe in. They're very, very rigid. Many times, not only today, but throughout history, simply disagreeing with someone on what they believe in is a great offense. Why? Because when you disagree with someone in what they believe in, you question their sense of security. You put their delusional, safe reality into risk. And they get defensive, like they've always been. They say, well, oh, that's wrong, you're wrong, whatever, I don't care, or whatever they may say. And I know because I've been one of those people before. I used to believe very strongly in a certain group of leaders and beliefs and this and that. And I thought that was the truth. That was the way things are. But truth is a very fluid thing. Truth isn't just one thing that you found. Something that you thought to be true yesterday could be not true today. Take life as it comes humbly and don't get stuck in the past. Because when you start to be rigid and stubborn, what you're really doing is getting stuck in the past. You're getting stuck in this belief, in this idea of how life should be that you had once upon a time. And when you do that, you take away your ability to grow and to live a peaceful, harmonious life completely. And you go against the very nature of existence. And you therefore feel as though you're constantly under pressure, under attack. When really life is not that way. It doesn't have to be that way. You see all of these people saying, oh, well, life's unfair and life's this and that, and you should develop strong mentality so that you can fight it off and you can, you know, tell it to go away when it comes down on you, and you can have a great victory over life. Life is not a battle to be won. It is not a war to be won. It is not a land to be conquered. It is an experience to be enjoyed. This whole thing is an act of art, and we have to stop living as warriors and start living as artists so that we may truly come to understand what this whole thing is about, so that we can actually learn to enjoy life and stop creating unnecessary suffering for ourselves by getting attached to our false sense of security.